Something extraordinary is happening right now, and your arrival here is no accident. Imagine yourself standing at the crossroads of infinite timelines, each one a shimmering thread of possibility, stretching out into eternity. Every version of your future exists simultaneously in this vast field, like stars in a night sky, waiting for you to choose which constellation you'll bring into focus. The quantum field has been shifting, reorganizing itself, drawing you into alignment with possibilities you may have sensed but never fully named. The very fact that you're here, listening to these words, means you've already entered the gravitational pull of your breakthrough. But here's a mystery that most people overlook about these cosmic moments of alignment. They rarely arrive with certainty. Instead, they come wrapped in paradox. You feel the electric sensation of being on the verge of something monumental. Yet at the same time, a quiet whisper of doubt questions whether you're truly ready. This is the liminal space, the threshold between who you were and who you are becoming. And history, both personal and collective, shows that thresholds are always uncomfortable. Think of the ancient rites of passage. The boy sent into the wilderness, the initiate lowered into the temple's dark chamber, the pilgrim standing at the gates of a holy city. In those moments, the ground felt unsteady, the outcome unknown. Yet it was precisely in those in-between states that transformation occurred. You are standing in such a moment now, though instead of stone temples or forest clearings, your initiation takes place within the architecture of consciousness itself. The universe had been conspiring to bring you here, aligning circumstances, weaving together failures, dreams, and chance encounters. And here's what shifts everything. Success is not something to be chased like prey in a hunt. It is something to be aligned with, much like ancient sailors aligned their ships with the stars. If you've been circling familiar patterns, watching opportunities slip through your fingers like water, wondering when your moment will finally arrive, know that this circling has been part of your navigation. You've planted seeds, taken risks, even failed spectacularly. And now you find yourself at the crossroads, staring down the path forward and questioning whether it's worth the energy to continue. But here's a revelation whispered by mystics across ages. You are not behind schedule. You are perfectly positioned. In medieval cathedrals, artisans labored decades on a single stone arch, never knowing if they'd live to see the building complete. Yet each chisel strike mattered because it was part of a larger alignment, an unfolding that belonged to divine timing rather than human impatience. You too are in such a place. The seeming delays, the wrong turns, the hesitations, these have all conspired to bring you to this exact intersection. What you're about to experience is not simply the transfer of information. It is a transmission, a frequency entering your awareness, designed to recalibrate your relationship with reality itself. If you felt the tingling sense that everything is about to change, stay present. This is not coincidence. This is your initiation. Before we speak of techniques or strategies, we must look deeper to the architecture of your inner world. This is where the real power lies. Just as ancient builders examined the foundation before raising a temple, you must examine the foundation of your consciousness, the patterns of thought you inherited, the emotional frequencies you habitually broadcast, the unconscious programs that run silently in the background. These are the stones and mortar of your reality. Without their renovation, no outer transformation can endure. Across cultures, this truth has been echoed. The Stoics of Rome insisted that perception creates reality. The Buddhist masters taught that mind precedes all things. Indigenous shamans spoke of dreaming the world into being. Whether expressed through philosophy, mysticism, or ritual, The message was the same. Your internal architecture is the invisible infrastructure of manifestation. Look around you. Some people appear to glide effortlessly into opportunities, to grow ventures as if guided by unseen hands, or to step into relationships that seem divinely orchestrated. What distinguishes them? It is not luck, superior intelligence, or hidden privilege. It is the frequency they embody, the subtle harmony of their inner architecture. They've learned to think in patterns that magnetize reality toward them. And here is the beautiful truth. You can too. This threshold moment is an invitation to step into alignment, to tune your consciousness as an instrument is tuned before a symphony. But unlike music, this is not sound alone. It is the vibration of your very being. In every era, people have sensed such moments. The revolutionary who feels history stirring before the first protest begins, the poet who hears the first line of a verse before ink touches paper, the scientist who glimpses a vision of discovery before experiments confirm it. You're in the company of all who have ever stood at the edge of becoming. And so as you stand here at the intersection of infinite futures, remember this: the doorway is already open. The question is not whether you are worthy enough, strong enough, or prepared enough. The question is whether you will step across the threshold, because the universe is not waiting for perfection. It is waiting for your presence. And presence, more than preparation, is the key that unlocks the next chapter of your becoming. Before any empire rose, before any cathedral was built, before any revolution began, there was always an idea, a seed that took root in the invisible architecture of the mind long before it appeared in the physical world. The same is true for you. Before your external reality can shift, the foundation of your consciousness must be examined, because it is here, within thought, memory, and belief, that the blueprint of your life is drawn. Your consciousness is not a blank page. It is an inheritance. The patterns of thought passed down through family stories, cultural traditions, and even the collective fears of your society are woven into you like invisible threads. They whisper in your decisions, echo in your doubts, and frame what you believe is possible. This unseen inheritance shapes the architecture of your inner world, often without your awareness. Some patterns are supportive, carrying ancient wisdom and resilience. Others are restrictive, like scaffolding left behind, long after the building should stand freely. The emotional frequencies you broadcast are part of this architecture as well. Just as the ringing of a bell sends ripples through the air, your inner state resonates outward, influencing every interaction, opportunity, and relationship. A person steeped in bitterness will find their world mirrored with obstacles, while one who cultivates gratitude sees pathways where others only see walls. Ancient traditions knew this well. In Hindu cosmology, it was said the universe itself vibrated into being with a sound, the primordial OM. The lesson is simple but profound. Vibration creates reality. And then there are the unconscious programs, those hidden scripts that run silently in the background. They are the internal laws you never consciously chose, yet live by every day. I'm not good enough. Opportunities always slip away. Other people succeed because they have something I lack. These are not truths. They are echoes repeated until they solidify into the walls of your inner architecture. When you're ready to transform your external reality, the renovation must begin here. Think of it as restoring a forgotten temple. You don't begin with the roof or the gilded doors. You begin with the cracked foundations, with clearing the weeds that have overrun the sacred stones. Every belief questioned, every unconscious program rewritten is like chiseling away centuries of debris to reveal the original design of your being. This invisible infrastructure explains why some people seem to flow so naturally toward their desires. You've seen them. Individuals who start businesses that grow organically, who step into relationships that feel destined, who seem to breathe in rhythm with life itself. Their secret isn't superior genetics or divine favoritism. Their secret is coherence, the alignment of their internal architecture with the frequency of what they desire. History is filled with examples of this principle at work. Consider the Renaissance, when artists, scholars, and visionaries across Europe simultaneously shifted their consciousness from medieval fatalism to humanist potential. This collective re-architecture of thought gave rise to cathedrals, symphonies, and discoveries that still shape us today. Or think of the civil rights leaders who refused to let inherited patterns of limitation dictate their future. By reshaping the architecture of their inner world, they redrew the map of external reality for generations to come. Here's the invitation. You can tune into that same frequency. The foundation of transformation lies in conviction, the embodied knowing that your desires are not distant dreams, but present possibilities waiting for you to align with them. Without this knowing, nothing materializes. Without alignment, you cannot vibrate beyond fear or radiate beyond doubt. Success becomes a birthright reclaimed, not a prize won. But what does embodied knowing actually feel like? It is not the hollow repetition of affirmations while your body contracts in disbelief. It is not forcing yourself to think positive while secretly fearing collapse. Embodied knowing is intimacy with yourself, a communion with your own being in every sacred moment. When you whisper, "This is impossible," the walls of your inner architecture close in. But when you replace those whispers with expansive truths, "I am learning," "I am growing," "I trust the unfolding," then cracks appear in the old structure. Light enters. New dimensions reveal themselves. This recalibration is not abstract. It changes how you walk through the world. Imagine standing before a locked door. One person bangs on it in frustration, convinced it bars them forever. Another sees it as an invitation, tries the handle, or searches for another entrance. The difference is not circumstance. It is architecture. It is the story each has chosen to inhabit. In ancient Egypt, builders aligned pyramids with the stars because they believed harmony between heaven and earth mattered more than mere stone. In the same way, your consciousness must align with a higher order. When you step into that alignment, life begins to reorganize itself around you. Synchronicities multiply. Opportunities that seemed out of reach appear. What once felt like struggle now feels like flow. And so the first task is clear: to examine, renovate, and realign the architecture of your consciousness. Because until this foundation is reset, every castle you try to build will crumble into another prison. But once you align, you realize the truth: you were never trapped. The walls were made of stories, and stories can be rewritten. Every transformation comes with resistance. It is the invisible force pressing against you the moment you step toward change, a weight that whispers, "Stay where you are. It's safer here." Resistance is not proof of failure. It is proof of progress. It emerges because your nervous system, wired for survival, interprets expansion as danger. Fear, judgment, hesitation. All of these are simply protective mechanisms, ancient echoes designed to keep you within the boundaries of the familiar. The trouble begins when protection hardens into prison. Fear of failure, in particular, is one of the most powerful electromagnetic fields that keeps souls locked in limitation. You know the sensation, the quickening heartbeat before you take a leap, the sudden inner voice reminding you of past missteps, the weight of imagined ridicule if you stumble again. These are not signs that you are unworthy. They are signs that you are alive, standing on the very edge of growth. History is written by those who did not mistake resistance for impossibility. Think of Thomas Edison, who tested thousands of materials before one filament glowed. When asked if he felt defeated, he famously replied that he had simply discovered 1,000 ways that did not work. The Wright brothers faced public ridicule when they tried to conquer the skies. To many, their failures were confirmation of madness. Yet those setbacks were only course corrections, guiding them toward liftoff. What distinguishes them from countless others is not that they avoided failure, but that they refused to let temporary outcomes collapse their inner conviction. This is the secret. Failure is never a final destination. It is feedback from the quantum field. Each setback is information, a signal, a recalibration. The ancients knew this too. Greek myths often told of heroes who stumbled, Orpheus losing Eurydice, Odysseus drifting for years. But their journeys were never about perfection. They were about persistence. Every misstep carried wisdom that reshaped the path forward. Your resistance is not an enemy to be destroyed. It is a guardian at the threshold, testing your readiness to enter new territory. To transmute resistance is to change your relationship with it, to bow to its message without surrendering to its chains. When fear arises, you can recognize it as energy, raw and neutral, waiting to be redirected. Imagine alchemists in their dimly lit chambers, turning base metals into gold. The fire that threatened to consume also became the source of transformation. So too with your fear. This is where the practice of inner dialogue becomes vital. Each time you whisper to yourself, "I cannot," your reality mirrors that frequency, closing doors. But if you shift the frequency, "I am learning, I am willing, I am expanding," then the mirror changes. Reality reflects a different pattern, and doors appear where once there were walls. The shift may seem subtle, but history turns on such subtleties. Empires have risen and fallen not only because of armies, but because of the stories people told themselves about what was possible. Consider the great explorers who set sail across oceans when maps still ended in dragons and void. Resistance must have screamed in their ears, the fear of storms, starvation, or falling off the world's edge. Yet they moved forward, guided by a frequency stronger than fear, curiosity. In the same way, your soul's curiosity is stronger than your resistance. The very fact that you feel resistance means you are brushing against the edge of new territory. Here lies your invitation. Transform your perception of setbacks. See them not as cosmic rejections, but as navigational beacons. Each wrong turn points you closer to the right one. Each fall strengthens your balance. Each silence sharpens your voice. When you dissolve the fear of temporary failure, you liberate yourself to take inspired action. You begin to treat life as an experiment rather than a judgment. You discover freedom not from falling, but in rising again and again until the very act of rising becomes your power. Resistance no longer imprisons, it initiates. It becomes the sacred gatekeeper, reminding you that every threshold worth crossing demands courage. And as you walk forward, you realize resistance was never there to stop you. It was there to shape you, to carve the edges of your determination, to remind you that the path of transformation was never supposed to be easy. It was supposed to be real. If resistance is the first guardian at the gate, then focus is the torch you carry to light the path forward. In a world saturated with distractions, voices pulling you in every direction, fragments of attention scattered across endless screens, the greatest challenge is not lack of inspiration, but lack of coherence. You may begin with clear vision burning in your heart, yet find your energy diffused across 1,000 tasks that never bring you closer to it. Cultivated attention is not about forcing rigid discipline. It is about becoming intelligent with your energy. Imagine a river. When it floods outward without direction, it destroys. When it is channeled, it turns turbines, irrigates fields, and sustains civilizations. Your consciousness is no different. The ability to return again and again to what truly matters is the dividing line between those who manifest and those who only dream. History shows this power. The monks of medieval scriptoria spent decades copying sacred manuscripts by hand, their attention so steady that every letter became an act of devotion. Samurai in feudal Japan trained their awareness until a single cut could determine life or death. Marcus Aurelius, ruling an empire under siege, still found time to center himself daily in meditations. Focus was not luxury, it was survival. In each case, attention became a form of prayer, an offering to something greater. When you learn to harness your attention with the same reverence, manifestation becomes inevitable. But focus alone is not enough. The second frequency that transforms reality is appreciation. At first, it may seem paradoxical. How could appreciation, a posture of stillness, accelerate manifestation in a world that praises relentless ambition? And yet, appreciation is a quantum key. When you focus on what already holds value in your life, on the breath sustaining you, the small victories you've overlooked, the relationships that anchor you, you shift your frequency from scarcity to abundance. This shift is not sentimental, it is practical. Appreciation rewires your perception. Where once you saw lack, you begin to notice opportunity. Where once you felt frustration, you uncover beauty. It is the same principle that guided the Stoics to practice gratitude in exile, or indigenous peoples to give thanks before every hunt or harvest. They understood what modern neuroscience confirms. The state of thankfulness activates higher brain centers, enhancing creativity, clarity, and resilience. To appreciate is to align yourself with abundance even before abundance arrives. And in doing so, you invite more of it. And then comes the third frequency, perhaps the most essential of all in a turbulent world: anti-fragility. Life will never unfold according to your careful blueprints. Storms will come. Structures will collapse. The unexpected will arrive like an uninvited guest at your table. Fragility shatters under this weight. Resilience endures. But anti-fragility does more. It grows stronger because of the pressure. Think of the blacksmith's forge. Metal is hammered and burned, not to destroy it, but to make it unbreakable. Consider the oak tree, its roots digging deeper after every storm. Or the phoenix of myth, reborn from flame and ash. These are metaphors for the human soul that refuses to let adversity define it. History again provides testimony. The Roman Empire tested its citizens with endless wars and plagues, yet out of that crucible emerged philosophies like Stoicism, teaching that hardship is not a curse, but a teacher. The samurai code, Bushido, was shaped not by comfort, but by centuries of conflict, demanding courage and honor in the face of impermanence. Even in our own time, communities devastated by disaster often emerge with stronger bonds, deeper wisdom, and a more unshakable sense of purpose. Anti-fragility does not mean never doubting, never grieving, never stumbling. It means feeling the full weight of those experiences and still choosing to rise. It means seeing a setback and declaring, "This is not my ending, this is my initiation." Every difficulty becomes raw material for your growth. Every fracture becomes a doorway through which greater strength can enter. When you combine cultivated focus, appreciation, and anti-fragility, you create a triad of frequencies that magnetize success. Focus keeps your energy coherent. Appreciation keeps your vibration elevated. Anti-fragility ensures that no storm can uproot you. Together they form a living practice, a rhythm of consciousness that allows you to walk through chaos without losing your center. And so, as the world pulls your attention outward, as resistance tests your courage, and as life bends you with its storms, remember this: you're not here to shatter. You're here to sharpen, to refine, to rise. Four castles built with discipline, gratitude, and strength do not crumble. They become timeless. If focus, appreciation, and anti-fragility provide the groundwork, then visualization is the architect's sketch that turns possibility into form. At its simplest, visualization is the practice of creating vivid inner images of the reality you desire. But in its deeper essence, it is far more than daydreaming. It is a quantum technology, an ancient art, and a neurological rehearsal for the life you are calling forth. Most people misunderstand visualization. They imagine it as a distant fantasy, picturing an outcome while quietly believing it will never come. True visualization collapses the gap between what is and what could be. When you visualize with presence and emotional intensity, you're not pretending. You are rehearsing. You're embodying a future that already exists in the field of infinite possibilities and summoning it into coherence with your current timeline. Modern neuroscience confirms this. Studies of athletes have shown that imagining themselves practicing activates nearly the same neural circuits as actual physical training. Musicians who rehearse silently strengthen the same brain pathways as if they were playing their instruments. Your nervous system cannot fully distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a lived one. Each time you visualize, you are carving neural pathways, rehearsing your reality until the body recognizes it as familiar. But visualization's true power emerges when combined with emotion. Every thought carries an electrical charge. Every emotion carries a magnetic field. When you unite clear intention with elevated emotion, you create a coherent electromagnetic signal, strong enough to ripple outward into the quantum field. Ancient mystics understood this truth long before physics gave it language. Shamans on vision quests, Sufi mystics whirling into trance, yogis holding sacred images in meditation, all were practicing a form of visualization infused with feeling, aligning inner and outer worlds through coherence. And here lies one of the most profound discoveries of modern science. The heart generates an electromagnetic field up to 60 times stronger than the brain's. When your thoughts and your heart's emotions are aligned, you enter what researchers call heart-brain coherence. This is not poetry, but physiology. In this state, your nervous system harmonizes, your immune system strengthens, and your intuitive capacity heightens. You become like a tuning fork resonating at a clear frequency, one strong enough to influence the field around you. Most people live in a state of incoherence. Their minds say one thing while their bodies feel another. They think about success, but feel scarcity. They imagine love, but carry fear. This inner contradiction creates static, a scrambled signal that dissipates before it can shape reality. But when coherence is achieved, when thought and feeling sing the same note, the field responds. Synchronicities multiply, doors open, and opportunities align with uncanny precision. Visualization, then, is not simply picturing, it is embodying. Ask yourself, what would it feel like to already inhabit your desired reality? How would your breath change if you knew abundance was certain? How would your posture shift if you were already loved, already free, already fulfilled? When you bring your body into alignment with your vision, you collapse the distance between desire and reality. Across cultures, this truth has been honored. Native American shamans would dance the rain before clouds appeared, not as a plea, but as an embodiment of what was already present in the unseen. Ancient Egyptians built temples as holograms of cosmic order, believing that sacred architecture itself could invite divine realities onto earth. Tibetan monks visualize deities not as fantasy, but as frequencies, training their bodies to resonate with compassion, wisdom, or protection. All of these are forms of coherent visualization, practices designed to bridge the invisible with the visible. And so the invitation for you is this: become the director of your inner film, but do not stop at images. Flood your visualization with breath, with sensation, with emotion, until your body cannot tell the difference between what you imagine and what you live. The more coherent this inner rehearsal becomes, the more magnetic its pull on your external world. For when thought and feeling unite, when your inner symphony plays in harmony, the quantum field listens and responds. Up to this point, the journey has seemed personal. Your inner architecture, your resistance, your focus, your coherence. But the truth is, transformation does not happen in isolation. Every shift within you ripples outward into the vast network of human consciousness. Just as a single pebble sends circles across an entire pond, so too does your awakening influence the collective field. Quantum physics offers a framework for this mystery through the holographic principle. Every fragment contains the information of the whole. Change a single thread, and the tapestry itself is altered. This is why mystics and scientists alike insist that when you shift your consciousness, you are not merely changing your personal life. You are subtly reorganizing the fabric of reality for everyone connected to you. Biologist Rupert Sheldrake described this as the morphic field, a field of information connecting all living systems. Patterns of thought, belief, and behavior are not sealed in individual minds. They exist in a shared field, strengthening as more beings embody them. This means every act of expansion you embody, every moment you choose courage over fear, love over bitterness, trust over doubt, sends ripples into the morphic field, making it easier for others to do the same. This is why your breakthrough matters, not just for your career, your health, or your relationships, but for the evolution of humanity itself. Consider the abolitionists of the 19th century who declared slavery intolerable, or the suffragettes who insisted that women's voices must be heard, or the quiet monks whose chants of compassion seeded centuries of peace traditions. Each of these was more than a personal conviction. Each was an act of sacred activism, a transformation within that radiated outward to heal the collective. Sacred activism is not about carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, nor is it about rushing to fix others. It begins with embodying the frequency of the world you wish to see. When you choose to embody love, you add love to the field. When you embody abundance, you dissolve scarcity in the collective pattern. When you embody unity, you weaken the grip of division. Your presence itself becomes a form of service. Think of Gandhi, who described his life as his message, or Nelson Mandela, who after decades in prison emerged not with vengeance, but with reconciliation. Their activism was not fueled only by speeches or strategies. It was their very being, radiating frequencies of justice, forgiveness, and hope. They did not simply fight for change. They became the change. You too hold this capacity. You may not see yourself as a leader on a global stage, but sacred activism does not require fame or armies. A mother who breaks a cycle of violence in her family, a teacher who instills dignity in forgotten children, a healer who brings peace to a single patient. These acts ripple across the morphic field as surely as laws passed in parliaments. We are living through a time when the collective field is shifting more rapidly than ever. Old systems of separation, competition, and domination are collapsing. New patterns of unity, collaboration, and conscious creation are emerging. Every individual who awakens adds weight to the tipping point, moving humanity closer to a paradigm where consciousness, not fear, becomes the organizing principle of civilization. And here is the deeper truth. When you align your personal transformation with collective evolution, your power multiplies. You stop striving only for personal gain and begin embodying something larger. Your desires cease to be merely private goals and become part of humanity's larger unfolding. This is why personal awakening feels so urgent in this moment. It is not just about you, it is about us. So let your transformation become activism. Let your meditation become medicine for the collective field. Let your joy become protest against despair. Let your authenticity become permission for others to be free. Because every time you rise, you lift more than yourself. You tilt the balance of the whole world toward awakening. At some point, the path of awakening reveals its greatest secret. Your transformation is not about acquiring more techniques, knowledge, or control. It is about reclaiming your authentic power, the kind that cannot be given or taken away, the kind that does not dominate but radiates. Authentic power arises when you align so deeply with your true nature that your very presence becomes a force of healing and transformation. This is not the power of conquest. History has been littered with emperors, conquerors, and magnates who believed power meant bending others to their will. Their empires eventually crumbled because their power was built on fear, extraction, and ego. Authentic power is the opposite. It emerges when you surrender ego's demands and embody the wisdom of your higher self. It is subtle yet unshakable, gentle yet unstoppable. When you stand in authentic power, you stop competing with others and begin collaborating with life itself. Synchronicity is one of the signs that you are stepping into this power. Coincidences that feel too meaningful to dismiss. Encounters that arrive at the perfect time. Opportunities that appear as if the universe has been arranging them behind the curtain all along. Carl Jung called synchronicity meaningful coincidence, but in truth, it is evidence of your consciousness resonating in harmony with the larger field. Like a musician finding the key of the orchestra, your life begins to play in tune with the universe. But authenticity also requires integration. Within you lives both the divine masculine and the divine feminine. The masculine principle offers clarity, structure, and decisive action. The feminine principle offers receptivity, intuition, and creative flow. For centuries, these forces have been distorted. Masculine energy twisted into domination, feminine energy suppressed into silence. Yet the new paradigm calls for balance, for an inner marriage of strength and sensitivity, power and compassion. When these principles unite within you, your actions become both purposeful and graceful, both firm and tender. And this integration is not merely personal, it is planetary. We are living through the most significant transformation in human history. The old paradigm, built on separation, competition, and domination, is unraveling. A new paradigm, unity, collaboration, and conscious co-creation is emerging. This phase transition feels chaotic because the old order is crumbling while the new has not yet stabilized. Yet in such times, even a single awakened individual can shift the balance of an entire system. You may be that individual for your family, your community, perhaps even the world. This is why your awakening matters. Climate change, inequality, and conflict cannot be solved at the same level of consciousness that created them. They require humans who understand that we are not separate fragments, but threads of one great tapestry. Your authentic power, expressed through presence, choices, and frequency, is itself an act of planetary healing. Every time you choose love over fear, you add strength to the collective pattern of evolution. Every time you trust the process instead of forcing outcomes, you anchor stability into the field. And so the invitation is this: step fully into your role as a conscious creator, not for personal gain alone, but for the collective future we are weaving together. When you embody authentic power, you give others permission to do the same. When you radiate coherence, you stabilize those around you. When you live in alignment with your soul, you become a lighthouse in a storm. The universe has been preparing you for this moment. Every failure, every heartbreak, every dream that refused to let go has been shaping you into a vessel strong enough to carry this frequency. The timelines are shifting, the field is reorganizing, and the call is clear. Your moment is now. Trust it, embody it, live it. Because when you rise into authentic power, you do not rise alone. You rise for all of us.